Hmm. I don't know why this is happening. Can you hear me okay? Hmm.
Yeah, I can hear you. Is it not supposed to record? I thought it was supposed to record.
It's supposed to record, but I'm supposed to be able to hit the record button when I want it to record. Now it's recording you and I right now live. And then I also have it setting so the chat button isn't supposed to be on, but it is. So I don't know. I guess I could pause.
Coming tonight, I'm seeing a few familiar names. I wish I could see your faces back from NYU. So I want to give a special welcome to my NYU peeps. I'm super excited to be here tonight to meet all of you and kind of help out with answering questions about Aspen, about DSOs, about the big decisions of what to do next, whether it's after graduating from dental school, after graduating from residency, and all that. So my story coming into Aspen is one I love to tell. When I was in, let's see, I don't want to go back too far, but I am a bioengineer by trade. I went to Lehigh University and studied bioengineering and thought, I'm gonna be a biopharmaceutical engineer. My goals were to do vaccine research, actually, which is pretty interesting in these times. I really relate to what's going on right now. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. And after speaking with a lot of high-ranking people in a lot of these different companies, I had a friend who was vice president at Merck. I had a friend who was a vice president at Johnson and Johnson, and I had the in to have a job there. And after speaking with them for a long time, I realized that I wanted to be around people every day and be working with people and affecting people more on a personal level than really at that really groundbreaking overall level that you do in pharmaceuticals. So I kind of changed my track and went into dentistry. And while in dental school, for those of you that know me, the biggest things for me was, working on clinical skills and also leadership, mentorship, and involvement within school and within different organizations. And through that, I was the president of the class for a couple of years. And I also was very involved in ASDA, where I was then introduced to my now dear friend Hanan, who was one of Jeff's team members for quite some time. And, we got to be very close. I did a lot of events with her for Aspen and started to get to know, how the company worked and whatnot. And the thing about the relationship that really was really important to me was there was never a point where Hanan ever said, you should come work for us, or I want to get you a job, like, don't do residency. It was always a very amicable situation where, she was always there to answer questions. She always was there to connect me to whoever I needed to find out more answers. And that kind of generosity and positive energy really drew me to the company, because I felt like the reason why Aspen was there, I could feel, was to help people, not just to, recruit dentists or do things like that maybe sometimes there's that little stigma about. So that was the first step of me getting introduced to Aspen. And then down the road, actually about a little over a year ago, was the first time I met Jeff, which was actually at the Aspen national or leadership conference for all of the dentists. And what happens every year, and unfortunately this year we had to miss it, but usually every year Aspen does a big weekend of leadership for all the dentists and owners within the company, where they pick a really cool place to go. We were in Miami, and I was able to kind of be in this space. I was one of 10 students to be in this space with 600 of the Aspen top dentists. And the feeling that I felt that whole weekend was just this sense of family and commitment and, drive to help people. And I knew that that was something that, you know, was really basically my goal throughout this whole process. And I met my now owner doctors that weekend, Dr. De La Rosa and Dr. McDonough, who own a few practices down here in South Florida. And we really clicked. And, you know, at that point, we just said, you know, I might be doing residency. I have a boyfriend at the time who, you know, doesn't know what his career path is. So we didn't know what we wanted to do, but we were thinking about Florida, and we kind of just kept in touch. And it was really nice to know that, like, I could always call them and ask them a question and, you know, see how things were going with Aspen and check in. And I was able to attend after that 2 vibe sessions, which were also really informative and fun. And I met a lot more people. And at that point, it was super happenstance that I was up in Boston, and I had no idea that Dr. McDonough or Dr. De La Rosa would be there. And I remember sitting in the lobby of the hotel, and they both walked in, and I looked at them and they looked at me, and they were like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Well, what are you doing here? You told me you weren't coming." And they said to me, "Well, you know, we're hiring people." And I said, "Well, I'm looking for a job." And they couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. We kind of all hit it off, and I walked out of Vibe that weekend, you know, signing a contract and being ready to start working for them when I graduated in May. And now here I am, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 7 months later after graduation. I've been working for about 4 months. I started back in July, and I am so happy. Everyone that I talk to always asks how I'm doing, and everything's great. I'm loving it. I'm loving what I'm doing on a daily basis, and you know, it's something that I don't regret my decision one bit.
That's awesome.
Any questions came through while I was ranting?
Yeah, there was one question, but I just kind of want to interrupt for a moment. You hit some,
Sure.
you know, I've been here for 8 years, everybody, and for her to talk about her story, especially Hanan, because, you know, I hired Hanan and she is awesome. But, you know, Miami, I like Miami so much that I actually got engaged in Miami, and not so much longer. The De La Rosas are fantastic. I do want to hit you up on some vaccine talk. So
Yeah.
I have questions for that. But
Actually,
no, that's a
trial. Bring it all like in full circle. I'm actually in the Moderna trial.
oh, that's
We got
awesome.
injections about 3 months ago. My husband is as well. Well, now husband. We are pretty sure actually got the vaccine. I had no symptoms, so we think that I got saline, but we're going to be unblinded within the next few weeks, and we'll both know who got it and who didn't, or maybe we both did, and then kind of make our decision from there.
Well, that's awesome. So we'll table that discussion, but we definitely get back into it. So yeah, so David is asking a question, and he's wondering what it's like to work at Aspen on a daily basis. So what is your daily schedule looking like? And if you would, Jess, talk about how it started and then how it morphed into what the schedule might look like now.
Yeah, 100%. And it's so cool that you actually emphasize that part of it, because it's definitely changed dramatically since I started. First, I have to say hi, David, because we were in school together, so it's nice to hear from you. Okay, so it's a kind of few part question. So let me start at the top. So in terms of when I started, I think that was the other part of the Aspen experience, and what I got from learning about Aspen that really solidified my decision to join the team. And that was that mentorship is such a big part of Aspen as a whole, in terms of how doctors are trained and brought on and onboarded and things like that. So bringing it back to that first big experience that I had meeting doctors and Jeff, was at the leadership retreat. There is an award ceremony that goes on. It's called the Aspies, which is pretty cool. And one of the awards is a mentorship award. And I'm actually very fortunate that my owner, Dr. De La Rosa, has actually won that award. So it's something that for me was a huge draw about how I would be able to transition from dental school into working in the real world, And I knew that, they also held mentorship to a very high standard. So I started out in July. And during the first month is a really big onboarding month where you're going through, well, right now it's a lot of virtual because of COVID. So we did a lot of virtual webinars and whatnot with all the teams that are mostly based in Chicago. And I did a lot of learning with them, and I was teamed up and matched up with a mentor that I worked with throughout that month. I had hands-on experience starting from day one, as much as I wanted to and felt comfortable with, but nothing was like thrown on me. I didn't feel like pushed out of my boundaries. I will admit, I mean, just as I know a lot of you that are in school right now are able to be kind of hands-on because of COVID, but I was virtual for the last 2.5 months of dental school. So walking into an office after that and knowing that I needed to pick up a drill and drill on a human, something that I hadn't done in a while, was a little nerve-wracking. And I even said to Dr. McDonough, I said, I'm bringing my Typodont. I'm going to drill on some plastic teeth before I even start touching someone. She said, you know what, like, you're going to go at your pace, and I'm going to be right there helping you all the way. Like, whatever you need, if you had questions, whatever you needed to, master, we'll sit down, we'll take the time and make sure you're ready. So having said that, day 2, I was doing crown preps. It's like riding a bike. You don't lose your skills. You've been working on them for so long, and making sure that you remind yourself of that, especially when you're going from dental school into the real world. You're capable. You're graduating from a dental school because you're able to do the things that you're trained to do. And just keeping that in your mind and having that mindset was really important as well. In terms of, that first month, I, was seeing patients as I could and learning. And for me, it was a big, I pushed myself to learn the electronics patient system, and also just the flow of the office, because it's a very efficient and intentional setup to how the day runs, in terms of production and like the patients that you're doing full big procedures on, and then seeing new patients, and also seeing patients for denture steps or things that mostly the dental assistants are doing for you. Now, fast forward to now, I'm about 4 months in, and 3 days a week, I'm still working with my owner doctor. Dr. McDonough's in with me Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays. And on Wednesdays and Thursdays, I run the office on my own. It's just me and my team, and it's really wonderful. There are some weeks, or every other week or so, Dr. Del Rosa comes in and does help me for like bigger cases, like implant surgeries, things like that. But I've definitely come to a point where I'm able to, function as a full-fledged independent dentist, making my own decisions, making my own treatment plans, and, seeing patients daily.
Dr. Jess, so
Yeah.
did you ever think that 4 months into your career, you'd be able to handle the schedules that you are today?
I 100% know.
No, right?
I
It
think,
happens
yeah.
quicker
And
than
that's what
every
I said.
doctor. It happens a lot faster than they think.
It's a mindset thing. It's reminding yourself that you're capable and you can get there 100%. I mean, I'm doing 3 cases on Friday that I never thought I would be doing 4 months in. I'm doing 2 full mouth extractions with placing 2 implants immediately, giving upper and lower dentures, and then, a few crown preps at the end of the day. But, things that in dental school, you're like, wow, that would take me a whole semester to do.
Can we skip around a little bit, Dr. Jess?
Yeah,
I
totally.
want to just cover COVID just because it's going to come up, and I'll kind of want to put it to bed a little bit, but I want to make a couple comments as well. Obviously, this has been a very tough year for everybody in all industries, and just personal lives as well. But I personally am just really, really proud of the way that our organization has kind of stepped up. First and foremost, we honored every single offer that we had out before COVID, every single one. And we brought back just about every single dentist to the offices. In the
Yep.
interim, we made very good decisions and, made furloughs where we had to, but also had emergency dentistry, teledentistry. And when everything was said and done and we were allowed to practice dentistry, full dentistry again, our patient demand was there and it's actually stronger than ever. And I know that from the office level, the precautions are just on point and out of control. So, Dr. Jess, why don't you talk about your personal experience about, kind of how you were feeling during the course of this and how you felt it was handled by your owners?
So I think, we all have that anxiety and fear. And I think the biggest thing that I can suggest to you guys is to trust. Trust that Aspen has you in mind. Trust that Aspen is doing all the right things and all the things that they possibly can to make sure that you're safe. I mean, it's their priority to do that because we run the show at the end of the day. Like without the doctors being safe, there is no Aspen Dental, right? So, it's very apparent that everyone on both sides of the team care about making sure that we're all having the right equipment, being safe, and feeling safe. There hasn't been a day that I walk into an office and feel like I'm not equipped for handling, protecting myself against COVID. Um, Honestly, the only thing I will say is that I can't pick the particular kind of glove that I would like to use because there's a shortage, but we have gloves, so it's okay. That's really literally the only thing about COVID that's kind of slightly annoying. But other than that, we're all on the same page. The office is all on the same page. We all have access and sufficient PPE to feel safe. And I haven't really felt like it's really necessarily affected the day to day. I almost agree with what I totally agree with what Jeff just said. The demand is actually higher than I really expected, and I think it's because people are realizing that dentistry is a priority. Dentistry is, linked to your overall health, and without taking care of your oral health, your overall health is going to suffer as well.
All right, two questions that I think might require a little bit of thought. What is the most difficult obstacle so far in your career?
Um, so I think so far the most difficult, oh, that's a tough one. The most difficult obstacle in my career. So in terms of being at Aspen, I would say, um, I, I have found that clinically there are things that I am challenged with still. And that's been probably one of the hardest things for me personally. Um, I've I've always been pretty quick to learn in terms of clinical skills. Um, I didn't expect to be in a clinical setting that was as surgically heavy, and I think that adjustment has been a challenge, but it's been one that I've enjoyed through and through. The fact that I'm placing implants 4 months after dental school was something I absolutely never thought I would be doing. I never thought I would love doing. And now I'm like, all right, implant, let's go do it. And it's getting there, and I still have a lot to learn. But I have to say that I am so impressed with the courses that Aspen has provided, the CE courses that are put together for implant training, along with Dr. Rawal, who's the lead of the implant sect within the company. And the learning that I've done with those programs and all of the coursework that I've done with them has been so helpful to getting me to the point of feeling comfortable.
I'll put a little perspective on that, Dr. Jess. So I sneak into the Aspen Dental sort of online chat through Facebook, and some of the most experienced dentists that we have are asking questions and asking for advice on specific cases, which leads me to believe that you all never stop learning.
Never.
Right?
Absolutely.
All right. So another one, what is what is a procedure that you still are struggling with that you have to ask for help with?
Okay, so I, I don't think there's necessarily a particular procedure that I struggle with. But like, for example, today I was taking out a tooth. We were doing extraction of number 30, and um, it wound up that the roots of the teeth kind of bulbed out and then were fused at the apex. And I was having a really hard time getting that tooth out. And I took a second. I said to the patient, I'm going to grab another instrument that will help me get this tooth out a little bit better. I'll be right back. I walked out of the room, excused myself, like thought about it for a second, and called my POP. And I said to Dr. De La Rosa, I was like, I can't get this tooth out. I don't know what to do. And he was like, all right, send me an x-ray of it. I texted him an x-ray super quick. He's like, all right, this is what you're going to do. You're going to flap it. You're going to do a trough around the whole tooth. You're going to elevate it and it's going to come out. And I was like, all right. So I went in, I did that, wasn't budging. So I call him back. I'm like, dude, the tooth is fused at the apex. And he said, no way. There's no way. It just looks like that on the x-ray. Not a chance. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'm pretty sure it is. He's like, okay. He's like, just trough a little bit more. You'll be fine. It'll come out. So I was just like, all right. So I went back and I said to myself, this tooth is fused at the apex. I'm going to drop the burr all the way and cut it at the apex. And so I did that. And the tooth comes out. And I saved the tooth, and he got to the office at 1:00, and I handed him the cup, and I said, the tooth was fused at the apex.
Very good.
He was right there, ready to answer my call, walk me through what to do. I had to troubleshoot a little bit on my own because he wasn't there. But I was still able to get past that surgery. But there's a lot of things that come up that I'm still not 100% on. And I think that for me, the biggest thing is knowing your boundaries and knowing when you need to stop yourself, check yourself, and ask for help. As an associate, your MCD is always there for you. Your owner doctor is always there for you to ask a question, whether it's through text, they're standing by your side. And it's just learning just the right words to say to your patient to excuse yourself to get that second opinion. I always use saying, oh, I'd love to get a second set of eyes on this. This seems a little bit tricky. And, my MCD will come in, they'll take a look, we'll walk out, we'll talk through what to do next and move on from there. And generally just kind of taking the step back, having a second set of eyes and getting a second suggestion, I'm usually totally fine.
Dr. Jess,
Sure.
Gwen Lee wants to know, how are you choosing your implant cases?
How am I choosing the implant cases?
Yeah, like which ones do you feel like you're able to do, and which ones aren't you?
Oh, okay. I'm working with my MCD. So whenever we have a case, and I know it's an implant case, I treatment plan it, and treatment planning, it's not really the issue. It's just a matter of, am I doing the case or is my MCD doing the case? So we kind of both will sit down. For example, the case on Friday, we've sat down, we've gone through the CBCT, we've kind of deduced that, it's pretty straightforward. I should be okay doing it, but she also has blocked some time in her schedule to make sure she can come in with me and go through anything that she needs to go through to make sure that we're successful.
All right. The next question I would love you to answer is from Alex DeRoe. He wants to know about any business classes, what kind of business support you're getting. Do you work closely with an office manager? And I think that's because you're running the office by yourself. What kind of support do you have non-clinical?
Okay, so as an associate and as a lead dentist, your best friend in that office is your office manager. Your office manager is basically you for the front part of the office. They will handle everything when it comes to like time cards for payroll, ordering for the front of the office, managing everyone, and dealing with time off, things like that. From there, the other person who's your best friend is your regional manager. And I'm so happy you asked that question today because I actually sat with my regional manager today and went over what we call P&Ls, where we go over, how the office is doing, what happened the previous month, what do we need to change, implement, or, keep doing to make sure that the office is running efficiently. My regional manager, Josh, has been a massive support for me. Anytime anything comes up, except for the clinical stuff. I call him. Anything clinical, I call either, my owner doctor, my MCD, or the 10 other doctors that are in our little team down here in South Florida.
Okay. And Dr. Lee also wants to know how many patients you're typically seeing in a day, and if you do all procedures or do you just kind of limit them?
Okay, so typically a day, so it's really hard to put a number on how many I see a day. It's really varying depending on what kind of procedures I'm doing and how much time I need for them. Generally, I would say I see about 5 to 6 production patients a day, where we're doing anything from fillings, crowns, extractions, implants. I think that's pretty much
Are you
it.
doing any ortho yet?
Yeah, we do ortho, but that's not really, it's not usually a production patient that we see for that, because we do, so we're actually doing Sure Smile. The rest of the Aspens do Invisalign. But we're kind of in a pilot program for a new company that we're working with. But we are doing a bunch of those cases. I think we have about 6 of them running now. But so yeah, so it's about 6 patients in my production. See anywhere from 4 to 7 new patients a day, depending on the day. And then in the overflow column, I'm seeing anywhere from, I want to say, 6 to 12 patients. But I'm not necessarily going into every single patient that's in that overflow. Some of them are post-ops that I am going in to see, but some of them are denture steps that I'm checking for wax bites or wax tries. And some of them are other adjustments that might be needed for people who have temporary dentures and things like that. So I
Yeah, I
would say,
zoned out for a minute there, Dr. Jess. Did you
yeah.
talk about new patients and treatment planning and how that works?
Sure. So new patients, we do anywhere from ideally 5 or 6 a day is a super ideal number of new patients. And basically how that works is I'm really big, and Aspen's really big on making sure that our patients understand what's going on in their mouth. Education's huge. We use digital iTero scans for every single one of our new patients in order to give them a visual on a screen of what's going on in their mouth, alongside our x-rays that we always put up in front of them too. In terms of treatment planning, it's any patient that I see, I treatment plan, and I have full reign over those treatment plans. If I have a question or I have trouble, because honestly, as a new grad, you can't come out of school thinking that you can treatment plan every single patient. It's unrealistic. We don't have the experience. But as I said, you have that support from your MCD and from your owner doctor, or from the clinical team here. Of, if you don't know what to do, you take a picture and you send it to them, or they're right by your side if you're an associate. So I have done many treatment plans on my own, but also have taken the time to sit down with Dr. McDonough and say, hey, can you just sit down with me on this one? I'm a little confused about this one area, or, does this look funny to you? And we talk about it, and it's a really good learning process for us.
So, Dr. Jess, the 3 questions that I'm looking at, I'm going to kind of group together, and it's about compensation and benefits. You don't
Okay.
have to get into your own personal compensation, but you can talk about how you get paid, and then I can add in, and then you can handle the CE and benefits, and if I feel like I can add any value, I will.
Cool. Okay, so CEs are basically unlimited. CEs are a really great resource that Aspen provides to you as a doctor. I've already done quite a few of just like the 1-hour CE sessions that are emailed to me every week or few days. I get an update of what's new, what's coming out. And they also run different courses. So really cool. 2 weeks ago, we did a Botox fillers course. So I'm now certified for Botox and fillers that we did through Aspen. It was really cool. It was really great. It was an awesome experience, something that I always wanted to do. So I had that opportunity there. As I said before, we were talking about the implant course that, I was able to take for through the CE program. And I think Jeff just added in the group chat that you guys actually do have access to all the CEs now as well. Since COVID, Aspen has opened that up to new grads and pretty much everyone, I think, can have access to the programs and whatnot. So CEs is not anything that you should be worried about when you're with Aspen. Anytime you need CEs or need a course, there's always something running. And if it's not there and you reach out to the team, the learning and development team, they're happy to create whatever you need.
Awesome.
In terms of benefits, so I mean, work benefits are exactly what I think you would expect. It's healthcare, eye care, dental, and then you can also opt into any of the life insurance plans. There's some disability plans that you can opt into, and that's all on your Aspen benefit website once you're hired and onboarded and whatnot.
Yeah, and there's a 401k plan as well.
Yeah.
And look, CE is a huge fringe benefit. And there's some other ones that aren't as obvious as well. And I'll talk a little bit about compensation, Dr.
Sure.
Jess. So the main plan that we utilize at Aspen Dental for our dentists, and it's not in 100% of the cases, is that we pay by gross profit share. And that's the incentive piece of the doctor pay. And it pretty much calculates all the revenue brought in from the clinicians minus expenses, and then her owner yields a profit and then pays the doctor out of that. It really, gives a really high ceiling for that. And we pay differently if you're an associate or if you're a lead dentist. And then another unique thing about Aspen Dental, if you didn't get it by now, is that our offices are owned by the dentist. So there's buying options for partnerships and full office ownership as well. And there is a base salary. Probably 95% of our dentists or more also receive a guaranteed base salary built into the compensation plan. In and above that, the only thing I'll say is that our associate dentists earn anywhere between 150 and 180 on an annual basis. Our lead dentists are pulling in anywhere between 200 and 350 and above. And our owner dentists, forget it. There's a they make a ton of money based on how many offices that they own. But more than that, anything more than that, we can talk offline.
I just wanted to add one thing, Jeff, if you don't mind. The other part of the incentive plan that really was important to me was that along with the base salary, there is that, the percentage of a gross profit share. And that percentage is different based on what level you are in terms of like a bonus. And basically what that is it's the percentage is based off of patient satisfaction scores. And I think that that's really important for us to note. And I think it's something that for me was a big game changer in making my decision to join Aspen, is that, I'm paid on making sure that my patients are happy and satisfied as well. Not my base salary, but anything additional in terms of incentives. And I think that, that just shows to me even more how much value Aspen puts in the patient and the patient experience. And I think that that's like, the biggest thing for me.
Well said.
Thank
Well
you.
said. Okay, so I don't have any other questions right now, but I will say a few things. She did mention the Aspen Dental CE program. That is offered to all people in dentistry, not just Aspen Dental employees, for at least the end of the year. And I put it in the group chat, and it is aspendentalce, all one word.com. And if you log into that, you can create a profile and log in and earn CE credits. I don't know if they're extending it into 2021. I haven't heard that they are not, but just in case, I would definitely take advantage of that. The other thing I want to talk about is, Dr. Jess can start, is talk about your letter of agreement or contract, and what that means to you.
So, I mean, to me, it wasn't really like a contract. I didn't feel like it was something that, I was being roped into something, or, there were hidden lines and whatnot. It really just basically talked about what I was guaranteed, which is malpractice, things that, are expected, but there was no like non-compete or anything in terms of restrictions of if I were to leave Aspen that I know that there's, some skepticism about. Everything was really just straightforward. I had my lawyer look at it, and he basically said, this is very black and white, very fair, very standard, and nothing that would be a red flag in terms of you signing for work.
Right. So just a little bit more about Aspen Dental for those who aren't completely familiar with who we are. We're an organization that's really, really healthy. And we open up about 80 to 90 brand new offices every year. And we do stand behind the Aspen Dental brand, and that all of our new offices are owned and operated by dentists, but on the building, it does say Aspen Dental. And I think Dr. Jess hit on, her patient demand a little bit, when she said that she took personally as an associate 5 or 6 new patients a day. I would imagine that, in some days, you're seeing 10 to 12 new patients in a day. That speaks
Uh,
to the Aspen Dental model. It speaks to our advertising marketing. It speaks to our diligent business that, we're reaching out to this many patients that aren't receiving care. As a matter of fact, I believe we have 25 or 30,000 calls to the call center a day from new patients trying to set appointments. So that's why we're able to grow brand new, what's called de novo practices, at the rate that we do every single year, year after year. Dr. Just talk a little bit about the patient that walks through the door at Aspen Dental in your offices.
So generally that patient's going to be someone who hasn't been to the dentist for anywhere from like 3 to 10 years. Most of the people that I'm seeing are, in pretty bad shape, pretty scared emotionally, and, not trusting being in a dental office. So there's a huge responsibility on me to make them feel comfortable, make them feel like, we care, and, have them overcome that fear. And so, that alone is a huge challenge for someone. We have patients who sit in the parking lots and never walk into our office because they're just that nervous. So, we are very aware that that's the case, and we make sure that, like I said earlier, education is such a huge thing. Making sure that patients understand what a tooth is made up of. I go into just very simply, a tooth has 3 layers. It has enamel, dentin, and your nerve and your blood supply. And how does a cavity form? And how do we prevent cavities? And, there's a lot of love and care that's put into each patient, new patient interaction. And I think that part of it and that emphasis within the company is, the reason why we're doing so well, and why this company grows at the rate that it does. I have to say too that that's kind of another thing that drew me to joining the team here, is because the model works. There's no reason why Aspen needs to purchase an existing dental office, because the way in which they set up an office, build out an office, build the team for the office and train everyone, and also give the support that we have, whether it's from a clinical aspect or a business aspect, it's working. It's very efficient, very intentional, and as I said, very much emphasized on the patient experience, the feeling of family, and the feeling of teamwork and making a difference in someone's life.
Yeah, there was one clarification question on the ownership. So Aspen Dental builds brand new offices. It costs us roughly $700,000, and then we sell that office to an Aspen Dental dentist for roughly half of that. And then we kind of work for them at that point with all the services that we provide. And I think that, there is some confusion because there are places that offer equity in other things. Aspen Dental is one of the only DSOs that actually offers practice purchases. So that's one of the big differences. As far as the contract goes, Dr. Jess, would you suggest to somebody that's offered a job to have a lawyer look over that contract?
Suggest you have a lawyer look over any contract that you're going to sign, even if it's buying a house.
Um, and if you're working at an Aspen Dental office, I guess I'll take this one. Are you able to work on the weekends at a different office? Um, Look, I would say if you're part-time, then it's kind of understood that you may be working in another office, and we do hire part-time dentists on occasion to be able to, fill the needs of the office. I don't see a lot of full-time workers doing that, quite frankly. You may be able to ask your office to open up more weekends if you really do want to work more, but that's a little bit difficult with staffing. But we do open up. Dr. Justin, you open up one weekend a month?
We don't.
You don't? Okay. The majority of the office, the Aspen Dentals do work about one Saturday a month.
Yeah.
But Dr. Jess is just one of
We've
those.
we've been breaking the rules a little. We also didn't have days for a bit, but we're now having late days.
Another topic that I'd love to bring up, and I don't know if you really have a lot of insight on this because we haven't been able to do it, but that's charitable giving. So our chief clinical officer and his team of clinical directors oversee what we call the Healthy Mouth Movement that we started in 2014. And that's our charitable giving division. And it really has three major legs to it, and that is a day of service. And our focus is on veterans. And one day a year, 500 or so offices opens up, and we give volunteer service to veterans. And that's really fantastic. That's in June every year, except for this year, obviously. And then we also have the Mouth Mobile, which is, an operatory on wheels. There's 3 operatories in an office that roll around and partner again with veterinary offices and serve veterans in underserved areas, whether that be urban or rural or anywhere where there's a VA. And we make about 40 stops, maybe 30 to 40 stops a year doing that. And of course, Dr. I, who I'm sure Jess has met Dr. I. She's a
Dr.
around here. She leads the charge here and leads at least 2 overseas missions every year, and the doctors are encouraged to apply for those as well. And this year, and I can just tell Dr. Jess is going to be all for this initiative when it comes around again. But that I'm sure will pick up as soon as the COVID scare stops. But it's a really, really big part of what we do. And then, Dr. Jess, if you have any insight on this or any thoughts.
So it's funny you mentioned that because actually I was hired in October and then I found out March was when they were supposed to go to Cambodia. And I begged Dr. I was like, I know I won't have graduated yet, but let me come. I was just there. I had gone with the NYU and I just was dying to go back. And we joked about it, but unfortunately that trip never went. But that is, the day of service was something that I remember watching the video at leadership of the day of service from the previous year and like welled up, had chills everywhere, and just was like, wow, like that is something that I want to be part of. And, unfortunately this year, as you said, we weren't able to do it, but I'm super excited and, just hoping that we can for the next time around. And, I've already been talking to my regional manager, Josh, and we're super excited about it. He's a veteran, so it's really cool to be working alongside him to do that day of service. So, I know we'll do it at some point as soon as we can. So it'll be great.
All right. So Dr. Guntaka wants to know about patients in multi-provider offices. How do new patients get split up between the providers? I guess what he's asking is how do they get scheduled into each provider's schedule?
So I don't know how it works in every office. I'll be totally honest. I can just tell you my experience with it. And that is most of the time, if there's urgency for that patient, which generally there is, because like I said, those patients haven't been to the dentist in probably 5 years, 10 years. Generally, they're coming in with pain. We try to just get them in. If that means that I treatment plan them and then they go into Dr. McDonough's schedule because tomorrow she's available and I'm not, like we both work together on making sure that patient care is the top priority. And I think that that kind of plays into, the reason why I was so drawn to, the pay or benefits and whatnot, and how we're paid as doctors is because you're not paid on your individual production, you're paid on how the office does. So if I, regardless of what I necessarily produce, I'm guaranteed my daily rate. Not saying that I don't want to, make sure the office is doing well. I obviously want to, because the better the office does, the more incentivized we become. But, there isn't this competition of, oh, I need to do this implant because I need to make my production quota. That doesn't exist in this office, in this company. And I think that that's a really healthy way to grow doctors, to focus on, like what I keep saying, the goal of what we go to work for, and our mission, which is like to provide patient care to patients that don't have access.
That's well said. And I just want to make a couple points on that, Dr. Jess. You talked about the patient that was nervous in their car and never even make it to the office. There's also these patients that it takes them a long time to even make that phone call. So I would imagine that they get in there and you treatment plan them. If you're waiting around for you to be able to have an open in your schedule, they're less likely to even make that appointment. And that's another reason why we make it a priority to get the patient in, if not that same day, then as soon as possible. Another thing that I want to hit on that you kind of mentioned, and it was really good, is the fact that because the offices are all owned and operated by different dentists, a lot of things such as the schedule, and how many dentists are in there, and how you're getting paid, and what your benefits might look like, and the onboarding process, and how you're mentored. A lot of that isn't just cookie cutter. It really takes on that sort of philosophy, and the personality of the owner dentist in the office. So look, we have 800 and some 50 or so offices that are operating as Aspen Dental right now. And although there are tons of similarities, there's also a lot of differences, because those who are practicing now, or those who are in school and in clinic, know that, look at, dentistry is only as good as the people that are in the office and come to work every single day. So, that's why there's variability within our offices as well. And that's why they take on their own personality, and they take on their own sort of atmosphere. So, yeah, I don't know, Dr. Jess, you work with a team that are in other offices. You have any insight on, the differences between those offices?
So yeah, I've actually, like you said, we have a really big team. We have about 12 doctors right now on our team. And I've actually, over the time that I was mentoring, over the first month and a half or so, I had the opportunity to basically go to almost all of the offices for at least a day, if not more. So I've been able to kind of bring home little bits and pieces of how each dentist works, and really tailor, my style based on what I was learning and seeing around me. So I know that, not everyone might have that opportunity, but every office worked completely differently, had completely different ideas on how to either, and I'm going to go into Sholade's
Okay.
kind of question by answering your question, which is, time management is, huge. And like for us in our office, sticky notes are the best thing. Post-it notes are the best thing that ever happened to me. And, it's like, I can't live without them. And that's kind of how I time manage on my DAs. If there's something in a patient waiting in the next room, I always have a sticky note of, what the patient's waiting for and how long they've been waiting. And, I've been able to kind of start seeing more patients throughout the day because of, the help of my team helping me with time management and keeping everything on track. In terms of like what, I just lost that question.
I'm sorry. It was procedures. How
How long do I
procedures? Yep.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I've now kind of set somewhat of times for the most part. Crown preps that are an hour at most. And, that's including the prep, the scan or impression, and the temporizing it. I don't need to go into details exactly of how much time, but I have, worked with my front staff so that they know when they're scheduling appointments, how long to book certain procedures. And, I kind of mentioned at the beginning, I'm now running the office by myself 1 to 2 days a week. And on days that I'm on my own, my front team and my office manager knows to kind of add an extra 10, 15 minutes to some of the appointment times so that I do have that time to take a break, go see a new patient, and pop back in to finish up.
Awesome. A question that's always asked is, are you ever called in after hours?
No.
Yeah, and that's always the answer. I've only
Yeah.
had one doctor, and that was the doctor who's been here for 22 years, say he's been into his office for an emergency patient after hours. So,
Oh, wow.
but the question's
No,
always asked.
we have like an on-call system where if there is a dental emergency, there's kind of a list of dentists that'll get texts and calls based on like how we kind of rank who's in charge for that week or weekend. It's pretty rare that I get hit on that list. And if it is, it's generally someone who, has been to the office, is now in pain. Most of the time it's a Sunday night and the response is come in tomorrow, first thing, we'll see you. And then we kind of resolve it in the morning. Unless there's something like super drastic, I always try to call the patient and, check in on like the big things. Is there any external swelling? Is there any fever? Is there anything that, is really that drastically wrong? And if that's the case, I have had 1 or 2 patients that I've said, go to the emergency room, might be in your best interest. And I got a phone call the next day saying, you know what, you were right. I'm glad that I went because they had to give me IV antibiotics. And now I'm doing a lot better. I'll see you tomorrow for a follow-up and we go from there.
All right. If a student or a resident or a doctor on this call now wants to know how to best get in touch with somebody for interviewing or shadowing or visiting an office in general, what would your suggestion be?
So I would definitely reach out to Jeff. Yeah. Yeah, that'd definitely be a good idea. I'm happy to talk to you guys and answer any questions, either through email, drjessdds@gmail.com. I can put it in the chat, or Instagram's cool too. But
Would you be okay if I shared your email address?
oh yeah, I got it.
Okay. That was where I was going with that question.
Yeah.
People had questions afterwards. And
Totally, yeah.
of course, they're
Wait, hold on. All panelists and attendees, drjessdds@gmail. If you guys, want to find me on Instagram too, I'm always on Instagram, so I'll answer that as well.
You're a little far away down in South Florida, but I would imagine that you'd be welcome if anybody's in the area for a shadow day as well.
Oh, 100%. I would love to have whoever wanted to come down for sure.
Okay. And, I asked that question, but, we hire really like-minded individuals at Aspen Dental. Very, very rarely do I have a dentist tell me no, that they can't shadow. All of our dentists have been in your shoes and they know how difficult it is and they want to make sure that you're making the right decision. So we want to make sure that you're exposed to as many clinicians in the offices as possible. Go ahead.
I 100% agree. And I did that whole process too. I shadowed at Dr. Taylor's office right after leadership. And then before I even signed anything with the De La Rosas, I actually shadowed with both of them just to make sure, we clicked and we had a good relationship and we knew we wanted to work together. But, you still want to make sure you take the time to make sure you're going to mesh in the environment and really succeed. I think that it's, I say it to Dr. McDonough all the time. She's the owner doctor, and for her, she's always asking me what my goals are. And I always say to her, like, I think it's really important that we both share our goals because, in order for her to succeed, I need to know what her goals are. And in order for me to succeed, she needs to know my goals. So making sure that you're super open about your goals and what you want to achieve, whether it's long-term or short-term, especially during this whole process of when you're looking for a job and trying to find the person who you would work best with, would be really my big advice for you moving forward.
Okay. And I just want to, make a statement here too. Dr. Jess talked a lot about her implant experience And although there is a huge initiative led by Dr. Wall, who's an amazing prosthodontist and speaker and teacher, throughout the entire organization. It will be a 7-step process when it's all said and done. But I just want to kind of, give full disclosure. Dr. Jess is in probably the leading implant office in Aspen Dental, or or those group of offices. It doesn't
They
happen
do
for associates that quick.
over 1,000 implants last year.
Yeah.
Collective.
So it is a growing initiative, and all of our new dentists will be exposed to it. But it is going to take time. So I don't think that everybody is going to jump into doing implants every single day. I just want to have full disclosure on that.
Sorry, Jeff.
No, that's okay. I mean, it is fantastic. I just don't want everybody on this call to think that they're going to be doing implants in the first 2 months of their career. So, all right. Well, it's about that time, and I want to obviously thank Dr. Jess for joining us. I want to thank all of you as panelists. I will reach out to each one of you and give you as much information as you need. Again, aspendentalce.com. Write it down, put it in your notes, and log in and create an account. Dr. Jess, before we do the raffle, which I'm going to ask you to help out with, any final thoughts to any of the attendees here tonight, or any final advice?
Yes, I actually do have something I want to share. I want everyone to always remember, as you're moving through dentistry, to remind yourself of where you were 3 months ago. Dentistry is constantly changing, constantly evolving. Our profession thrives on us continuing to learn and grow. And whether it's clinically, through leadership, through mentorship, just as individuals. I, had a conversation with one of my PSRs today actually about this. And she was saying to me, I feel so overwhelmed. I'm working on insurances now. I'm on the phone. I'm just about to get the insurance company to give me an answer. And the phone rings. I have to hang up and start that process all over again. It's so frustrating. And I said, but you're doing insurances. Think about where you were 3 months ago. You wouldn't even think you would be working on insurances at this point. So, I've had that revelation quite a few times, especially over my first 3 months. I always had to remind myself, where were you 3 months ago? Well, 3 months ago, I was sitting on a Zoom call, learning about dentistry because we didn't know when we were going to be able to treat patients again. And now here I am being able to do what I wanted to do, help people who need help. So I think, moving forward, whether it's with Aspen, in a GPR, anywhere else in private practice, please always take a minute to sit down, reflect, and remember, where you are now, what you've achieved, and how far you've come since 3 months ago.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. That was great advice. And now I'm going to ask you to pick a number between 1 and 11.
Five.
Number 5. Okay. Pick a number between 12 and 20.
17.
Okay. And pick a number between 17 and 33.
21.
21. Okay. Let's see. Number 5 is Courtney Lynn. Courtney Lynn, you are the winner of a $25 Amazon gift card. Please text me, and I put my phone number in the box, your email that you want that sent to. Congratulations, Courtney. Okay, number 17. That is Michael Lesniansky. Michael Lesniansky. Michael Lesniansky, you have just won a $25 gift card to Amazon.
Woo-hoo.
Congratulations. Round of applause for Michael. And number 21 is Rebecca Z. Rebecca Z, that's spelled A-Z-H-I or Zai, I guess. I think it's Z. Rebecca Z, you are the winner of Apple AirPods. Congratulations and a round of applause.
Congrats, guys.
Yeah,
And
congratulations.
shout
Please
out to
send me a
my
text
NYU
with,
people. It was really
yeah,
nice to hear some questions from you guys, Parth, Lee,
and
David.
Dr. Jess, there are about 3 people on here that have already signed their letter of agreement from
Oh,
Dental. So
congrats, guys.
they're
Who is
continuing
it?
to show up for us. All right, everybody, that concludes our Ask Me Anything with Dr. Jessica Singer. She did a fantastic job. Round of applause for her. This session is ended. We appreciate you and we'll be in touch soon. Bye. Thank you. Jess, you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just going to call you for a second. I'm ending the meeting. I'll call you.
Okay, bye.